Haftarah reading. Let's try that again. To help us introduce the Haftarah reading this morning, it's my honor to call upon our congregant, Jessica Daniels Schwarz. Jessica lives here in Hastings-on-Hudson with her husband, Jamie, and their two sons, Miles and Charlie, who are in 9th and 6th grade, respectively. They moved to Hastings from Brooklyn by way of Manhattan in 2021 and joined TBS that fall. Jessica is a film and television casting director and has been grateful to root her family and community life here. It's now my honor to invite her forward to introduce the Haftarah.
You would think I know how to use this. Every year on Rosh Hashanah, we read the story of Hannah. On the surface, it's the story of a woman who longs for a child. But underneath, it's really a story about longing itself, about what we do when our deepest hopes feel just out of reach. Hannah carries this private ache. Better? I don't know.
Yeah.
Hannah carries this private ache. Everyone around her has an opinion about it. Some mock her, others dismiss her pain. Even her husband, well-meaning as he is, basically says, "Hey, aren't I enough for you?" If you've ever wanted something so badly it hurt and felt people didn't understand, or worse, judged you for it, you know something of Hannah's world. That part of the story feels timeless. What makes her remarkable is how she responds. She doesn't bury her grief. She doesn't put on a smile to make others comfortable. She goes to the temple and pours her heart out. She's so unfiltered in her prayer that Eli, the priest, assumes she's drunk. I love that detail because it shows how strange honesty can look from the outside. Vulnerability makes people squirm. But Hannah isn't performing. No filters, no polish. She shows up as she is, and that's when everything begins to shift. Last year, I lived my own version of being knocked down and having to start over. 2 days before the writers and actors strikes began in 2023, I was laid off from my full-time corporate job. Suddenly, I had no work, and there was no production, let alone a path forward. 9 long months went by without a job in an industry I had given my whole career to. Like Hannah, I felt misunderstood at times. I looked around at people who seemed to be thriving, and I couldn't help but covet what they had. And like so many of us, I wanted to keep up appearances, to look fine, when inside I was unraveling. But eventually I learned what Hannah models. Sometimes the only way forward is to stop pretending, to admit what you need, to ask for help, even when shame tells you not to say the thing out loud, even if it's embarrassing or messy, even if it's uncomfortable. And when I did, things started to shift. I took a job well below my rate, but that led me back to more work. And earlier this month, I attended the Emmys as a nominee for Best Casting of a Limited Series, something I never imagined would grow out of that season of struggle. Standing here now, I feel 2 things at once: gratitude and vulnerability. Gratitude because I felt the weight of absence, and vulnerability because I know how quickly it can all change, and how important it is not to hide our longing or our weakness. That, to me, is Hannah's gift. She shows us that turning points don't come when we're curated and polished. They come when we let ourselves be seen in our messy honesty. When we stop filtering, stop managing how it looks from the outside, and actually say what's real. So as we step into this new year, my prayer for myself and for all of us is that we carry Hannah's lesson with us, that we allow ourselves to long, to stumble, to ask, that we hold on to both gratitude and vulnerability in equal measure, and that we trust that when we stop performing and start telling the truth, we open the door to blessings we couldn't have scripted. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. The blessing before the reading is found on page 247.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar be'im tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem hane'emarim ba'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'invi'ei ha'emet b'tzedek.
Amen. The reading can be found on pages 250 and 251.
And there was a man from Ramatayim, Sophim, from the hills of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, God creates, son of Yeroham, son of Elihu, son of Toku, son of Suf, an Ephraimite. And he had 2 wives, one named Hannah, Grace, and the other named Peninnah, Pearl. Peninnah had children, and Hannah had no children. And this man would go up from his town every year to worship at Shiloh and make offerings to the Eternal of heaven's hosts. And there Eli's 2 sons, Kophni and Pinchas, were priests of the Eternal. And on the day when Elkanah would make offerings, he would give portions to his wife Peninnah and to each of her sons and daughters. And to Hannah he would give a special portion, because he loved Hannah, and the Eternal had closed her womb. And her rival wife would taunt her cruelly to make her tremble with grief, for the Eternal had closed her womb. And so it was, year after year, when she would go up to the house of the Eternal, she taunted her, and she would cry and not eat. And Elkanah, her husband, said to her, "Hannah, why do you cry, and why do you not eat? And why are you disheartened? Am I not worth more to you than 10 sons?" And Hannah arose after the eating and drinking at Shiloh, while Eli the priest sat upon the throne near the doorpost of the temple of the Eternal. And she, bitter to the core, prayed to the Eternal, weeping and crying. And she vowed and said, "Eternal of heaven's hosts, if you will truly see your servant's affliction and remember me, and not forget your servant, and give your servant a son, I will give him to the Eternal all the days of his life, and no razor shall be lifted to his head." And as her praying before the Eternal intensified, Eli watched her mouth. And Hannah, she was speaking only in her heart. Though her lips were moving, her voice could not be heard. So Eli thought she was drunk. And Eli said to her, "How long will you persist in drunkenness? Put away your wine, get rid of it." And Hannah answered and said, "No, my lord, a woman of sorrow am I. I drank neither wine nor spirits, but poured out my soul before the Eternal. Do not take your servant for a worthless woman. All this time I have spoken from the depth of my anger, from the greatness of my grievance." Then Eli answered and said, "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you the request you have made." And she said, "May your servant find grace in your sight." And the woman went on her way, and she ate, and her face was no longer as it had been. And they awoke early in the morning and worshipped before the Eternal, and they went home, returning to Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Eternal remembered her. And so it was that, at the turn of the year, Hannah conceived and then gave birth to a son. And she called him Samuel, because I requested him from the Eternal.
The blessing after the reading is found on page 259.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, sor kol haolamim, sadik b'kol hadarot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayim, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanvi'im ve'al yom hazikaron hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu lechavod ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umavarchim otach Yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol hai tamid le'elam va'ed udevahar emet v'kayam lad Baruch atah Adonai melech al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael v'yom hazikaron.
Amen.